It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in studio today. With us is the Game and Fish spokesman? Zen
Sure.
Mocarski. That's what you are all the time to us anyways. But Zen Mocarski is here all the way from Kingman this morning, and he's come to talk to us about a few issues that we don't get a whole lot of time to talk to you about when we do stories with you, because we are limited on how much time we can actually put stuff on the air.
Right.
And the issue we wanted to jump into right away with you was something that happened last year, and it's happened in years past too, and we've done stories on it with you. And it's bears that wind up coming down out of the forest and wind up in people's yards. The mountain lion, the particular one I'm thinking about is the one last year that showed up on a golf course in the Prescott area, and there was a lot of discussion about that mountain lion and why Game and Fish did what it did when that mountain lion showed up on the golf course. So we have you here today, so I want to hit that topic first because we've got 20 minutes to be able to let you explain how
some fun.
Yeah, how Game and Fish handles these situations where, you know, you've got this mountain lion that comes down and it's on a golf course now, and I think the picture everybody saw was it cleaning its paws underneath a pine tree, and I think the reaction to that mountain lion and what Game and Fish had to do with that mountain lion would have been different had it been, say, attacking somebody on that golf course. So explain to me how this works for Game and Fish when you hear of wildlife such as these predators, these top-of-the-line predators, coming into residential areas.
Well, I mean, you almost answered the question already, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
Is that they are top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Mountain lions are, and so when we get a situation, the golf course, I'm not sure if everything came out with that or not, but to start with, we had already chased that mountain lion out once.
Okay.
Then it stayed in a residential area. It climbed a tree at the golf course, and at that point it was darted. And we had a lot of questions about, we were trying to hide something because we darted it first, then we took it away, and it was euthanized away from the scene. Well, the mountain lion was up and discharging a firearm, shooting up into a tree. You make your shot, everything's fine. If you miss, it's an awful dangerous shot. So that's why it was started first. I mean, there was, we put out the information, Game and Fish did, that it was euthanized. So, there was no deception or anything. But a lot of the comments I got was, why did you guys kill it? It was only doing what a mountain lion does. It climbed up a tree. And to that, I will say yes. You're 100% correct. But when we start talking about these, we cannot make just the argument that suits what we're trying to say, which is, yes, it did what a mountain lion does. There are other things mountain lions do from above.
Okay. Yeah, that's where they
hunt.
They jump down from there, yeah.
They hunt from above. And we have to look at situations like these. Like, it stayed residential. We had already scared it off twice. And we do not move mountain lions.
See,
I make no bones about that. We don't move them. If we have to come into a situation like that, at that point it will be euthanized because you can't move mountain lions. There's virtually no habitat in the entire state that is not occupied by a mountain lion. So where are you supposed to move this? And are you supposed to take a problem mountain lion from, well, let's say the Prescott area and move it to the Cottonwood area? So we'll make their problem your problem.
Uh-huh.
You can't do those kind of things. And some of the other things, just since we're talking about it, that I have to deal with is, why didn't you put it in a zoo? Well, you can only put animals in a zoo if the zoo needs one. And the other part about that is, zoos tend to look for animals that have been kept by people who realize they can no longer care for them, that have had some kind of contact like that. That's generally what a zoo is looking for. They don't necessarily want a truly wild mountain lion or a truly wild bear. So that addresses the moving, and let's face it, moving is not as safe as what everybody thinks it is, nor as inexpensive as what I've seen some people suggest it is. It's actually quite costly.
Mm-hmm. Now, I hadn't quite realized that you guys went out there and chased it off a couple of times.
Just once.
Just once, okay.
Just once. And at that point, we actually left the scene.
Okay.
And then we got a call, that the mountain lion was back and it was in the tree at the golf course.
So why would it come back?
Oh, it can be for any number of reasons, and this can be associated with most, the human-wildlife interactions. One would be, of course, that there's feeding issues, which is, if we could get the feeding issues under control, I would guess we could get rid of about 85% of the human-wildlife interactions that we get reports on and have to respond to.
Tell me what the feeding issue is real quick.
Well, you could say it's intentional or unintentional.
Okay.
Intentional is I'm putting out food to attract specific critters. Okay. I know deer like to eat this, so I'm going to put this out to attract deer. Well, the problem with that is you can't feed just one animal. So when you start feeding, rabbits, squirrels, deer, so forth down the line, sooner or later you can end up with foxes, coyotes, mountain lions, and so forth.
Everybody that eats those animals.
Exactly, and that's when we start to run into problems. So unintentional feeding is open garbage can. Critters come in and want to feed on this stuff. You may not have intended to feed it, but you did. And, it's not to sound crass, but it's true when we put out our pets. You live in the desert, you have these critters, especially if you're living on the urban interface. We need to understand that there's some potential that they've just entered the food chain. Now, you may not have intended to feed something, but, and we get a lot of calls about these animals going missing. Well, when we leave them unattended outside, that is a potential consequence.
Okay.
So we have to understand, that that's living in the desert.
Yeah, you put your animals out, and of course, larger animals will want to eat them, especially if they're wild animals.
So, and it's not to say it will happen. I'm just saying it can, so.
And it has.
And it has many times.
I think we've had an incident in Jerome where somebody lost a couple of cats to a mountain lion that had come into town.
Well, we have, generally a mountain lion is looking for deer. If it's eating house cats, there might be a problem. It might be very, very, very hungry. Coyotes are more common in regards to taking house cats.
Is the mountain lion an endangered species in Arizona?
No.
No. And okay, explain that to me, because I think when we look at those animals, we think, oh wow, there can't be very many of them, but there is an abundance of mountain lion, isn't there?
Yes, we actually have a really healthy, robust mountain lion population, and this has happened in other states where people have said, well, you don't see them, so there's not many there. Well, you're not supposed to see mountain lions. They're very stealthy animals. They tend to avoid human contact. When we start having them come into a town, obviously there's something else going on, but they do tend to avoid human contact. And like I said, they're stealthy and they're well camouflaged, and they come out primarily, dusk and dawn, so we don't tend to see them a whole lot. But the estimated population in Arizona is between 2,500 and I think 2,500 and 3,000 mountain lions is estimated. So that's, when you start talking about the amount of territory that a mountain lion covers, that's actually a lot of animals.
Okay. So how much territory is basically a mountain lion's territory?
Well, it depends whether it's a tom or, or a female.
Okay.
And they can have territories that extend over 100 square miles. So,
wow, that's big.
Yeah, and they will have intersecting, parts of their territory, but they don't share an entire territory. So, because mountain lions will fight for that territory, and that's one of the parts about why don't you move it? Well, you can end up not with one dead lion, but with two, especially if they're fairly evenly matched. And we have had cases in Prescott. One was a mountain lion in a garage. And we knew something was wrong, and it was euthanized, and during the necropsy they found puncture holes in the mountain lion's skull, and it was from another very large tom.
Okay.
Had done it.
So he'd lost a fight.
Yeah.
Okay. So what brings them into residential areas?
Well, we talked about feeding already. Some other things are, I mentioned feeding, and we didn't even mention water. An easy water source can draw animals in. We can habituate, specific animals to being accustomed to being around people. During times, we're not really in as severe a drought as we once were. We have had some rain this year, so there's some water out there for the critters. But during times of drought, of course, they're going to seek out, easy water supplies. And it's when Game and Fish starts putting out press releases, is they will find what they need remove it.
Sure.
You're not helping these animals. And when we start drawing them into urban settings, you know, I hope this doesn't come out wrong, but it's more of a selfish act than it is something to help the animals, because we're drawing them into an urban setting where there are cars driving down the roads. We're putting them in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is about seeing the animal and not saving the animal, because, you know, these animals coming into an urban setting is actually very dangerous, not just for the animal, but potentially for the public and for any number of reasons. And, you know, you've seen some press releases I've done on disease issues in the past. And, you know, it was about 7 years ago or so up in Mojave County, we had a severe die-off of doves from a disease called trichomoniasis.
I remember that.
And we were putting out press release after press release about, please take away freestanding water and stop, you know, clean out bird feeders if you want to have them out there, but this is how they're spreading the disease. Well, people were still putting out the water and not cleaning it and things like that. And I say, if you want to put out this stuff, at least have the responsibility, you know, at that point to do the right thing. And we didn't see really healthy dove populations again for probably about 3 years.
Well, we have to take a break.
All right.
I have to cut you off. Game and Fish, Zen Mocarski in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll take a quick 2-minute break and we'll be right back.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Hi, I'm Steve Scourgy with Yavapai Silent Witness. Marcel Gonzalez was murdered on this spot almost 15 years ago, back in March of 1997. We know that there is somebody out there who knows what happened in the alley that night. Yavapai Silent Witness is offering an $11,000 cash reward for information that leads to the arrest of Marcel's killer. For Yavapai Silent Witness, I'm Steve Scourgy.
The pain will not control us. It will never break us, define us, or keep us still. Because arthritis can't beat us if we beat it first. In the fight against arthritis, you need a weapon. What's yours? Visit the Arthritis Foundation at fightarthritispain.org.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Game and Fish's Zen Mocarski in studio today. We've been talking mostly about mountain lions and a little bit about bears coming into the area. Brad had a question for you. We've talked about feeding wildlife in your yard brings, of course, the smaller animals in, and they get bigger and bigger as we go down the chain. What is are you saying don't put any food out for wildlife, or is there some that you can?
One of the things I suggest to people is plant native.
Okay.
When you put out food that the animals can find anywhere else around where you live, they're likely to stop by. They'll grab a bite and then they'll move on. It's typical forage behavior, which is probably the best way to do this. That way they're also getting the proper diet, along with what they should be getting through there. But when we start coming in from other states and we want to plant what we had where we grew up, you're going to create a really attractive area for these animals to come and to sit and to feed and not want to leave. And then we get a lot of javelina complaints about javelinas tearing up my yard. Well, what are you planting? Tulip bulbs. Well, that's like candy to a javelina, you know, so of course, yeah, they're going to sit there and they're going to root it up and they're going to eat it.
So before you plant it, think about what you're planting.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, and if you want to see them, you know, same thing. You plant native and they'll come, they'll visit, and they'll move on. And that way they're still making their normal journey. And most of that's for the urban interface. For inside the city, you know, I'm hoping you don't end up with too many, you know, critters running around just because, again, of the danger for the animals to be right inside city limits, you know.
Let's change topic. Let's go to bears, the other big predator in the state.
Yeah.
We have instances where bears come down. The last one I can remember was one that was, I can't remember if it was a male or female, but it just kind of traveled down from up to the Flagstaff area, down Oak Creek Canyon. It was kind of hitting homes along the route in Sedona. And we got quite a few pictures of it in backyards eating. Bears, what do we do about the bears?
Bears, I would stick with pretty much what I've already said.
Okay.
You know, and when we start talking about bird feeders, one of the important things, because there's so many critters like birdseed, is to get a non-spill feeder. And if it's not a non-spill feeder, you can get something like a pie plate, you know, for a couple, you know, for very little money, and tie some wire to it and put it so it hangs underneath the feeder and catches it, and clean it out once in a while. The big thing is to keep food off the ground. You know, that's one of the big things. And with bear, one of the problems is, I'm sure you know it's a national slogan, and, you know, fill in the blank here. A fed bear is?
A dangerous bear.
A dead bear.
A dead bear.
A fed bear, and that's a national slogan, and it's national for a reason.
I had never heard that.
Because we've habituated the animals to being around people. This is not Yogi, Boo Boo, Smokey the bear that we're talking about. This is a top-of-the-line predatory animal, and very dangerous. And you start removing, you know, things from them. Once they become habituated, they can become very, very dangerous.
Is this an animal that's easier to relocate or not easy to relocate?
It can be dangerous to relocate because, you know, drugging an animal is not an exact science. You know, how long is it going to stay out? Is it going to go out? You know, so forth, so on. You can end up giving it so many drugs to bring it down that it can be dangerous for the animal. So you prefer it not to ever even reach that point. But we have had a bear wake up in the bed of a truck with game and fish people, you know, in it during transport. So, you know, there can be dangerous moments. And like I said, it's not an exact science. But we had one in the Wallapies that climbed into a camp with a bunch of kids and just curled up. Everybody did the right thing. The parents got the kids, you know, into the cars. They beeped their horns, made a lot of noise, tried to scare it off, and it just stayed there. And eventually that bear was euthanized. And when we performed the necropsy, it's like an autopsy on an animal, found its stomach to be filled, top to bottom, with corn.
Oh.
And so when I get asked about this particular bear, I say, yes, Game and Fish shot it. Game and Fish didn't kill it. Somebody, whoever was feeding this bear, sentenced it to death. And that's a shame, because Game and Fish doesn't want to go kill a bear. We don't want to go kill a mountain lion. You know, there's no benefit to the agency with such an action. There just isn't. So it's not something we want to do, but you can end up in a situation where it's dictated.
Let's take our second break. Game and Fish's Zen Mocarski in studio today. I'm Paul David. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back to kind of wrap up the program. Stick around.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
About the dangers of prescription drug abuse. The partnership at drugfree.org.
Hi, I'm Steve Scourgy with Yavapai Silent Witness. Marcel Gonzalez was murdered on this spot almost 15 years ago, back in March of 1997. We know that there is somebody out there who knows what happened in the alley that night. Yavapai Silent Witness is offering an $11,000 cash reward for information that leads to the arrest of Marcel's killer. For Yavapai Silent Witness, I'm Steve Scourgy.
Every year, 2 million kids play doctor by taking pills not prescribed to them. Talk to your kids about the dangers of prescription drug abuse. The partnership at drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a couple minutes left of the program, and one more question I wanted to ask you is what is Game and Fish's procedure on, okay, this animal, we have to euthanize, this animal we can move successfully and relocate?
Well, I already kind of answered that as far as mountain lions go, but bears are a whole different ballgame. You got to look at a number of things. We look at male versus female. Adult males, you know, very rarely are we going to move.
Why?
An adult male, because of their behavior patterns and already having been around people.
Is a male far more aggressive than a female?
Tends to be, unless the female's around cubs.
Oh, unless she's got cubs, okay.
A level of habituation, you know, and we will get this information from wildlife managers. You know, I talked to you earlier today about a bear running through backyards, you know, and we were chasing it and we were finding salt licks out there. So level of habituation, how accustomed are they to being around people? Again, the age of the animal will come into play. A number of factors we'll look at. Now with bears though, in baseball it's 3 strikes, you're out. With bears it's 2. And we did capture one in, I think it was Dewey, last year or 2 years ago. And we moved it about 150 miles. Bear came back.
Wow.
And that's one of the things, you know, at that point you're saying, okay, this bear is seeking out people food.
He's determined.
And that bear at that point was euthanized. It did get a second chance, but it clearly displayed a desire to come back to an easy feeding ground. So,
does the mountain lion have a same sort of thing? We've got another minute and a half here. Does the mountain lion have the same thing where it's 2 strikes you're out, 3 strikes you're out? No.
Mountain lion, once we determine that a mountain lion is a threat, the mountain lion is euthanized. Now, you know, again, we talked earlier today before we actually went on air about the number of calls Game and Fish gets in. You know, the calls people see, you know, the stories that they see and hear on the radio are when we euthanize one. So I always see, don't call Game and Fish, they kill everything. We get hundreds upon hundreds of mountain lion calls a year, and maybe we put down 4 or 5. So it's not, you know, we get a call, what did mountain lion do? Ran through my backyard, and then through a wash, and then up a mountain. Okay, well give us a call if you continue to see this mountain lion. Otherwise, this is pretty typical mountain lion behavior. It really didn't do anything threatening. Now we get the same call 2 days later. I saw that mountain lion again. Then another day later, another neighbor calls, saw this mountain lion. Well, we're going to start paying attention to this mountain lion at this point. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to move in, but we want to see what is happening. You know, okay, these people lost 3 cats, these people lost a dog, and now it's been seen near a bus stop, you know, a school bus stop. At that point in time, that mountain lion is going down. So. Okay.
We're out of time. Zem Mocarski, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
You betcha. Did a great job. All right, that's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time. Take care.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.